Ta-da! It is Thursday night. We're so excited for our guest tonight. We have Melissa Mugno, according to her mother-in-law, so we're going to keep it that way. Angela is actually going to introduce our guest tonight. We're also live on Clubhouse. Whoever likes to, is driving home from work and you guys just want to listen in. If anybody has any question through our talk, please. Yes, there he goes. Dana put Dr. Karochi is his name. You guys can put it on the chat on Facebook. You can put it on Facebook. I'll check it out. And on Clubhouse, just put it on the messages. I'll look also. I'm going to pass the mic over to Angela so she can introduce our wonderful speaker.
Thank you, Renata. Melissa is a pioneer within the modern myofunctional and airway-focused movement. Since being introduced to alternative orthodontic systems and appliances in 2009, she has never looked back. Recognizing the crucial role the oral muscles play in the ability to achieve desired outcomes, she decided to leave her role in private practice and in 2013 began the journey of becoming an orofacial myofunctional therapist. Since then, she has been able to improve hundreds of patients' dental stability in addition to their long-term health. Her passion for patient and provider education has allowed her to lecture around the country, bringing her high energy and passion to the field. Understanding the obstacles that dentists are faced with when implementing multidisciplinary treatment has given her the opportunity to introduce different methods and protocols, which have helped raise the practice standards for professionals. Spending most of her early career in the fields of orthodontics and pediatrics contributed to her ability to see how important these modalities are in the future of dentistry. Welcome, Melissa. Airway Circle is so excited to have you with us this evening.
Well, thank you so much. I'm lucky that I had somebody write that. One of the girls that works for me wrote that for me, which is
we have one of those in our team.
Yeah, I was like, wow, she made me sound so great. So, everybody really knows me. I mean, I am high energy, that's for sure. Well, I'm really grateful to be here tonight. I know I missed a lot of you guys last weekend. It's actually the first convention I have missed in, I think, since he started. So it was a little sad. It was a little heartbreaking to see everybody there, but I was really happy to see everyone back together in person and doing things. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Perfect. Before we got on here live, you were just starting to tell us how you got into this. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, of course. It's an interesting journey. Way more unique story than maybe most other hygienists. So I always worked for a very long time early on, started off as a dental assistant and then kind of ended up always working ortho. I went to hygiene school just out of base of not knowing what else to do. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't feel as though I was smart enough to get into dental school. So a very good friend of mine who was an orthodontist and his wife was a pediatric dentist really pushed me to do it. But I'm going to be very 100% honest. I really did not love it. My heart was never there. I loved being in the dental field, but I really loved treatment planning. I loved orthodontics. And I'm sure you'll realize by the end of the night, I can sell stuff pretty well. So I did much better there in a space. So when my buddy opened his own office, he kind of asked me, he said, listen, he goes, are you interested in just kind of directing and helping us build this practice? And that's kind of how we started. So it was an orthodontic pediatric office in New Jersey. One was in Newark, New Jersey, and one was in Berkeley Heights. And we kind of had two different models. One was a Medicaid model and one was a fee to service office. And Mike's father actually was a neonatologist, and we had bought a bunch of water laces. This is like 2010, I think. And I remember him like telling me, he's like, what are we going to do? Like, what's the ROI on these things? And what happened was we ended up speaking to a lactation consultant from his father. And that was the first time tongue ties kind of came into play, to be honest with you. And we met with this really amazing young lady, and she told us like how you could really change babies' lives. And it was a very Orthodox community at one part in Big Jersey. So Sundays, we would actually open the office for some of the pediatric dentists to do releases with lactation consultant. Well, we started to realize that was great for the little ones. And then when we were kind of in our middle of our year meeting, we were realizing, like most offices, we were missing this gap of our pediatric dentists were sending patients for ortho, but they weren't ready to start due to 6-year-old molars not being erupted and so forth and so on. We kind of started discussing a little bit like, what about that in between age? I wonder if there's anything we can do to kind of get in. And that was the first time I'd ever been introduced to MyoBrace. It was a weekend in August. It was at Barry Raphael's office. It was 3 days in a dental office on a weekend in the summer in Jersey. I was not excited. But we go and every case, they showed this appliance and then all of a sudden it was fixed. And I remember Mike, excuse my language, kind of stood up and said, bullshit. He's like, I don't think that's possible. But I said, but maybe we should just give it a try, because patients, I don't know, at that point, a lot of parents were, I definitely felt there was a need. We were seeing a lot more enlarged tonsils and adenoids, and it was definitely discussing. And I had a mom once ask us, you know, you have all this state-of-the-art stuff, but I have 3 sons, they all have class 3 bites. And you guys, like, nobody has anything different to tell us. It's the same thing, right? It's just wait, you know, most likely they'll need surgery. There was nothing to offer. So I think that's kind of where it started. We started with MyoBrace and we started selling it, I guess, or implementing it. I hate to use the word sell, but that's how it felt at that point in time. And I did really well with it. I got the concept right away, right? Like it clicked. And then 6 months later, he comes into a room one day and goes, what the heck am I looking at? I go, their tongue? I don't know. It's like, he's like, he goes, it became almost like a chokehold in the office. We almost went so far, so quick and very quickly. And I was actually telling you, so this was a lot of Brazilian and Portuguese parents. And we had a staff of so many, and they were like, is this BS? Like, is this not work? You know, when parents wanted results, they were not okay with us not having answers. And that actually scared me a little bit. And I remember I would spend nights trying to research, understanding what these exercises were. It made sense, but it didn't make sense. It was a little all over the place. So I ended up on a plane out to see Sandra Colson, because I found out she was the one that originally started the exercise system for MyoBrace. And I literally, if you ask her to this day, I like knocked on her door. I was like, hey, and she was gracious enough to let me in. And I hung out with her for, oh my God, on and off for a little while, and kind of really broke it down and helped me. And that was the first intro to, I didn't even go to take a course. I originally just was like, you got to help, I'm going to lose my job. And then that turned into a course and so forth and so on. And then it just kind of led from there. I had hygienists that we were training, but we were a busy office. So I had no choice at that point was to kind of bring in some of these assistants. Now I was really lucky because, as I was telling her, we had some assistants that were actually dentists in their country back. So these were pretty educated girls that knew even more. So they kind of helped under Mike, and then Mike had taken, but it wasn't ideal. You know what I mean? It was just to make sure we could get right by these cases. And then that kind of led on, and we kind of kept moving and growing with that. And then MyoBrace offered me an opportunity to consult with them. So I took that opportunity and I ended up working for MyoBrace for about 1.5 years. And again, I've learned so much from that. That was amazing for me. But, you know, I was more about kind of advancing the field, and implementation always was. I felt really at home in the office and working with the patients. I didn't want to just, you know, there was so much more I was learning, and the industry was growing like pretty quickly at that point, and I just couldn't get enough info. And then from there, I landed my first corporation, a dental organizational group that wanted to implement Myo. And that was my first big consulting situation. That was out in Vegas. And then UNLV was kind enough, and they let me start lecturing and discussing myofunctional therapy with their orthodontists. I think I had a really big advantage because I knew ortho so well, from a treatment coordinating standpoint, from an assistant standpoint, and from being his right-hand person. And that kind of always led me into tongue space. And then the ties kind of kept going bigger and bigger. And I guess really the way to kind of go, and so we can move on to the next, was I ended up with so many patients and I got stuck and I couldn't understand why we couldn't advance. And this was like 2015. And I'll never forget, I was pregnant with my son and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, who is this Zarush dude? Like, he is everywhere. Because at this point, there was nobody, right? So I'm like, who is this guy? And then I'm like, looking. I ended up paying for my first 20, maybe 10 patients to do consults with him. And I would get on every consult. And he eventually was like, who are you? And I was like, hi, I'm Melissa Mugno. This patient's done this. This patient's been doing myo. This one's had expansion. And that was actually how I segued my way in with Breathe Institute. They were just kind of, they were their first year in their new space. And I was in Vegas and we just kind of kept collaborating. I just couldn't stop sending patients there.
That is amazing, girl. You are a rock star.
It was a rock star or just pure desperation of like, what do I do with these patients? Like, I had a need to, I really didn't want to fail because I think I was so scared from my earlier experience of, I never wanted pay. I didn't really know where the end was, if that makes sense, right? Like, I kind of like, okay, great. They can do a suction. They look like they have more space, but they couldn't hold it. I mean, I had patients, if you ask my daughter's 11, there are more patients that come to her birthday party because I had kept them for so long. They became like family.
Yes.
But I'm really grateful. I mean, I was able to like learn as I went, and I've been able to just kind of meet and find all these really great people that were just, doing it for so long that didn't have a platform yet, and so I was really grateful and very lucky on that end.
That's amazing. Michelle Emmanuel is saying hello, Melissa. Miss you.
Oh, that's all Michelle. She's her and I have one thing in common. I think she'll agree with me, is every lecture we've ever done, everybody always shows up very prepared. One day I'm in the back and I'm like finishing my last slide and somebody goes, uh-oh, we have another Michelle, because Michelle's also known to be like finishing up a couple slides and then have the most amazing presentation. I don't know if mine were as amazing, but I tend to live on the edge a little bit too.
You just called her out.
Oh, I wasn't calling her out. I'm saying that she's so amazing at it. I'm grateful. She's a rock star, please. Michelle can do whatever she wants.
I want to go a little bit into some clinical first, and then I want to go back and ask you some questions about what you did with all these offices. Do you mind touching a little bit on breathing assessments? How do you do your breathing assessments?
So that's a question that I can go very lightly on, but I think it's kind of important. Where I used to do breathing assessments to where I do them now is very different. I've kind of just took about a year hiatus, I guess, in a sense, from any like live stuff. I mean, I've only just done a couple little, 20-minute stuff with Breathe Institute, but other than that, nothing much this year. And it's because I had a mental breakdown this year. I really struggled with my own mental health very bad. My anxiety and my depression had hit a really, really big low. And I ended up having to I went to a retreat, and it was a breathing retreat and really saved me and cleared my head. But I really found at that point, I always knew I could kind of read, maybe relate to people that were struggling, right? From understanding where they just couldn't really grasp information, right? So for me in the beginning, breathing assessments were really based off of just looking at somebody and watching how they reacted or how they would consume the information, because I guess I could relate in that way, whether they were making eye contact, whether they were able to pause and, slow down, or watching their body language. But, now I feel like I can really see the mechanics a lot better of the way the whole body's reacting, right? I have a much better idea of that. So I've incorporated more breathing techniques and things. Of course, Rose Alba is, one of the, please, there's not enough thing. Yeah, exactly. So some tidbits of her information, and then just my own experience, kind of correlating, bringing that all together. So one of the things I really work on is I'll literally just have a child or an adult just do a small little tidbit of a Wim Hof in the beginning. Now deep breaths in, breath out, hold, and then come out. And then once they've held their breath for either a minute or 2 minutes, as long as they can go that first time with not much direction, you usually can get a pretty big cue or visual of where they stand. Do they come in real quick after they come out and take a deep breath in their nose, or do they just bring it all through their mouth, right? That's kind of going to, like, I feel like, take a highlighter to show you where their breathing really lies in their normal life. That's kind of been my real tidbit. And laying on the floor at this retreat, laying there, and these people would come by as I'm crying and doing these things, and they kept just saying, just breathe, just breathe. And I was like, stop telling me to breathe. Like, but it was exactly what I needed to hear to remind myself how the ability to take a breath and truly like nourish that central nervous system is just the tool for everything. And I actually brought genuinely like tears to my eyes as reminding, like, that is a lot of what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get all those mechanics back in place. And to help people be able to do such a natural, beautiful thing to help them in all aspects of life. So, I really take the breathing so seriously, which I always have, but I feel like it's just even more highlighted now. And I think, we'll go into a little bit of appliances, I'm assuming, or just talk about them. But one of the biggest things is, some of these dentists or providers that just give a myo brace to a child or to an adult and expect them to be able to just wear it is kind of, not ideal, because until you really check and evaluate and teach these children or adults what their breathing mechanics are and prepare them for what it might feel like to have that appliance in their mouth, it really can do a disservice.
Melissa, first, I have to thank you for sharing with us. I feel like most of us here are mothers and wives and business owners, and people, a lot of people there do not really understand or see the struggles that we go through in order to be able to, be in front of our patients, giving our all, being over here, sharing everything we can. And we all know how difficult it is. Just tonight, our own group, we were like, who's gonna go live, because there was so much going on with our own families. So that really inspires us, and it really makes us all take a deep breath in. And like you said, be thankful for the moment. I am so thankful for each and every one of you that are making the time to be here, because even though we have homes to clean, food to cook, kids to take care of, plus our patients, businesses, husbands, if you have a husband, it is too much sometimes, but you still make time to be here and to learn together and to share with each other and to collaborate. So kudos to everybody who's on the call tonight. Let's take a screenshot of who's in the room.
No, absolutely. I think it's a very overlooked situation. And one of the first times the last presentation I did at American Light Scalpel right before the pandemic was the first time I ever opened up and showed my own airway, right? And how small, I absolutely should have MMA. My airway is 4.5 millimeters. It's tiny. I suck air through a straw. And that has actually played out a very big significant role in my entire life and the obstacles and challenges that I have faced between being diagnosed with ADD and ADHD. Like, the joke of all my patients is, like, I always say, like, I'm not just a director, I'm a member too, right? Like hair club for men, but it's the truth. I think that it's what helps me relate more. And definitely, like, I also think, more education to these moms who, yes, we tell them, yes, your kid has all these issues, which, to me is almost sometimes harder, right? You sit there and do a consult with a family and then tell them everything that's wrong with their child and then say, it's this amount of money and this is what you need to do to fix it and da. And if they can't, I do sometimes walk away and think, did I just make it harder on that mom or that family? I hope not. I hope that it inspires and hopefully does the opposite. But I think giving some breathing education and some basic techniques to the parents to help the parents be able to execute, or, you know, vice versa to help. You have to look at who's really the one executing most of these things, and it's mom, you know.
Definitely.
Or dad. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry, mom, dad, or whatever these days, politically correct.
Don't know, moms are the ones making the decisions.
Yeah, listen, I agree, but you know, nowadays I'm trying to listen. I easily, the good thing is this, I probably was canceled a long time ago, so it would be hard for people to cancel me again. So I'm kind of
yes.
Leslie, oh, sorry, Renata. Leslie says, you're such a breath of fresh air, Melissa. Thank you for being you.
Oh, Leslie's a doll. She's a sweetheart. I've been very lucky to be around a lot of these fabulous ladies as they've been coming up in the industry. So thank you so much.
Let's go a little bit in the challenges and obstacles of implementation of myofunctional therapy, breathing education, and that you know, you have been seeing in your practice, but all of us deal with the same or similar obstacles.
You know, for me, I'm going to talk a little bit more because I unlike a lot of you, yes, I see patients, but I don't see them as much as like a sole standing myofunctional therapist. I do it mainly I do a lot of consulting with these doctors. So I do see myo from a different perspective than maybe the standalone myofunctional therapist. So please understand where I'm coming from when I say these things. It's not to take credit away from anybody, but I'm looking at it from a provider standpoint. And I do think in this season and time right now, it is myofunctional therapists, whatever, we have to really look at the whole scenario, right? So we need doctors to refer to us. We need doctors and dentists to support us to keep fueling and building the industry. And right now we're having a really big issue of having myofunctional therapy, one, be more expensive than appliances. We have an issue with how a dentist feels as though it's not going to affect their flow and their protocol, because at the end of the day, we all know it's really expensive to own a business. And, you know, dentists who came out of school, they know something. A lot of them struggle with just the ability to be dentists and business owners themselves, right? Because how many of us know dentists that were like, God, they're the best dentist, the worst business person. Right? And then they have, you know, 20 women they got to manage, or vice versa, and a lot of personalities, a lot of feelings, and they're just trying to survive. And then they have to keep their hands busy all day to keep the production and the collections up. So I look at it a little bit like I do always want to pull our minds together and find ways to help support the dentists and not make it so hard for them to feel like they have to do it this way. You know what I mean? So that's a really big obstacle right now. I do not have all the answers. I constantly am looking and trying to test out new ways of making it better, because I unfortunately have seen way too many dentists go in with guns blazing, so excited, ready to go, wanting to do it. And because it just doesn't have legs and have scalability and longevity to feed the whole picture instead of just one portion, it becomes the opposite. It becomes discouraging. Patients don't get the results they need. And then we end up getting a bad taste in our mouth for something that has such amazing work, like, and what is needed for so many things. So those are areas I think as a community, as myofunctional therapists, we need to work better on. I think, like all things, sometimes you can't just look at it from your point of view. You got to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and you have to look at it from their place. We also are having a massive shortage of staff across the thing. We have dentists that can't find hygienists to clean teeth. We have dentists that can't keep front desk people. You have a lot of issues they're trying to do to survive. Mm-hmm. And you know, we're adding all these other modalities. I am not saying they're not fixable, and hopefully it's only a season, but I think it's something that we should be a little kind to, and we should be empathetic, and that we should, you know, be really talking to our docs and asking them what we can do to help them. And not so much be like, I need you to like refer, and look at your area, you know, like I'm not going to say, but I saw a myofunctional therapist and they were in the Midwest, and she's great. And because of the standards of what we said, the orthodontist was only charging $1,100 for the appliance, and she was charging $3,400 for the myo. And the dentist is like, I of course I want them to do the myo, but mom's like, which you don't want to put people in the position to pick, right? Because we're in the business of of trying to build team approaches and collaboration. So I don't know where everybody lies, but those are unfortunately some of the true issues and dilemmas we're seeing. There's been a lot of great people that have come up with other ways, by dentists being able to really keep their hygienists on as staff, as staff. And then from that point of view, they also have to be careful to not burn out their hygienists that are myofunctional therapists. I've been in more situations where I'm like, oh, wow, you want her to clean teeth, do exams, clean instruments, and then do myo. And I see the schedule like clean, myo, clean, like that's not fair either, right? The patients aren't going to get great. So, more things like this, having these conversations, putting out that dirty stuff that you don't want to talk about so that we can brainstorm, what is this, 10, 15, 20 minds come together to think about something, you're going to come out with such a better scenario and solution for things.
We have about 18 people here. We have 24 on Facebook and 5 people on Clubhouse. So
see, that's a lot of great, brilliant minds. Yeah. So, that's, I think from a standpoint is just supporting them so they can implement and keep the standards of care and, keep the movement growing in the right direction.
With that being said, do you recommend myofunctional therapists charging per session or charging the full amount?
So let's see. So 10 years ago, I can tell you each scenario in each way. Oh, it's a tough question. I've got to be honest, right? I think all of us know. I have recently just switched out of sessions. Like I've always kind of I used to always say it was 12 months, or, it might be 12 months. And I've always been hard with sessions because I never stick to my own sessions. If somebody needs to be seen more, I ended up seeing them more. And then, did that hurt my business model or vice versa? I feel like I've been trying to work more about trying to find ways to incentivize patients to do the exercises, right? Let's be honest. What's the hardest part of our job? Changing human habits and behaviors. I mean, this is not an easy thing here, people, right? Like people are not motivated easily, right? I mean, if you look at the sad part is gyms make more money off the people that don't show up than the people that do. Yeah. And we don't want our model to be like that. I'm sure everybody's here not to do it that way. We want to do it, in a situation where hopefully people are doing it because it's the right thing and they're getting out of it what they need. I think in a perfect world, really, I think more procedures have to be included. Like you cannot do this if you don't do this. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things, like having this expansion without this isn't an option, right? Like, that's my perfect unicorn world where, myo goes with everything and we come together and we find ways to treatment plan that as one-on-one, more together, really bringing those standards. But currently, I think maybe charging more upfront, allowing them to make certain payments and separating the payment plan from the treatment itself, kind of like the ortho model, right? And sticking a little bit in that way might be an incentivize for parents. I mean, I go back. I've also tossed and turned the idea of saying, listen, 3 months, this is how much therapy you get. If you get as much done here, then, can you push? But that's not ideal either. It's a tough call. I'm not going to lie. I wish I had a perfect answer for you. And I also think it's a little bit individually based.
Well, I just, I brought it up because you mentioned of how much it can cost. Just this last week, I saw 2 different patients. One was 5, the other one was 7. And they both wanted, myofunctional therapy. And after the consultation, I was like, no, it's not time for me to start right now. You need to go see this patient. I mean, this or first, or ENT first, or a feeding specialist. What you're looking for is not really much. So it's important for us to also select our patients well. Not everybody that comes through our door would be a good
candidate. Yeah,
exactly.
Not at this time. Yeah, you're 100% correct. And I agree with you.
And I will be the devil's advocate here that I understand that sometimes myofunctional therapy would be more expensive than an appliance, but the amount of time that we spend with the patient is a lot more than the dentist does with the appliance.
So please let me say, when I said I did not, when I said I knew I would get some of that, I, of course, am a big, listen, I have 2 kids. I want
Yeah.
to 100%.
I didn't charge $3,400.
No, I am in no way saying that the cost of my, I mean, maybe the appliances have to go up. I'm not saying one isn't. I know the value of what we do and how much time and how much prep work and how much of what we need to bring to it. So I'm in no way saying that it has to go down. I'm just saying these are the issues that are at hand, and there isn't a perfect answer. I know for a fact, every one of us have been in a situation where the person might have wanted to do it or they've had choices. I'm looking at it from a provider standpoint, not as a myofunctional therapist. Sometimes being a consultant, I have to take my hat off and go from that point of view and not as a therapist. So, right, that's the hard part. Trust me, as a therapist, I want to charge exactly what it's worth and get my time value. It's time away from my kids and my family. So I don't, it's a double-edged sword without a doubt. Not in any way.
I have had patients that said, you know, Renata, there's just no way I can afford this. And I'll just refer them to somebody who takes insurance, you know, well, maybe you can look at these options. Maybe, you know, always, you know, maybe insurance can pay for the some of the appliance, or maybe we can look for a provider here or there, or let's do this first and then we'll come back to therapy. Or, you know, there's always options. I'm always.
And you were right. I mean, I've been lucky enough. We've been a couple of doctors. I said, you know, team up with some good speech therapists that do really good myo. You know, I always encourage, you know, maybe if they have a speech issue, they can work on at least the basic foundation and then they can come back and do a different version. So there is options out there. I just, you know, it's how do you present them properly to make things scalable and, you know, make sure you still can keep the standards and the guidelines intact.
Definitely. You talked a little bit about refocusing after a short hiatus. Would you like to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of talked a little bit about it. It's just more definitely about the breath work and I don't, you know, like breath work is such a buzzword right now. I don't want to just tap into that. I think it's more just being mindful and as, you know, as cliche as thing is doing therapy again with a little bit more of empathy and love, being a little more softer and reminding myself why I'm doing it and what's the real reason for doing it. You can easily get caught up into what, you know, the grind, I guess. And I kind of started to lose balance, you know, and when you lose balance, you start to forget. And taking the break has made me such a better therapist in a better place, because I feel like I'm really able now to be back in a position where I hadn't taken on new patients in a year. Like I would, you know, finish the ones I was doing. I was still doing consulting because I didn't have the passion for it. Right. And that wasn't fair. And I just did a couple consults and I was like, it felt good again. Like it felt good to be in that seat. And, I'm looking at habits in such more of an empathetic way of seeing that there's a whole journey that got that patient there, or, you know, living in that world of structure, function, behavior, realizing those behaviors didn't come out of nowhere, and having more grace with the fact that they didn't know about this. Maybe nobody told them, maybe they didn't have the means or their parents or whatever. And kind of lowering the tone of acceptance and saying, listen, it's okay, you know, and we can take it at your own, you know, we can take it at a pace that feels right for you, and not so much hammering, this has to be done, and this, and trying to, yes, you need to know where you're going, but trying to enjoy the process of getting there a little bit more.
That's wonderful. Angela, do you want to read one of the questions? And while you're pulling that up, I do want to share something that I've done with several patients. So I do choose to charge per session. I feel like just my practice works better that way. I feel like it's a little bit easier on the parent. They're not so nervous to give that big chunk of money without knowing if it's really going to work, if they're going to enjoy it. I am super laid back. I mean, I tell them, you know, listen, if you 3 sessions in, you don't want to do this anymore, it's not a big deal. Like, I still love you and I'm still here to, you know, help you if you want to come back. That's actually really beautiful and very nice. And that it's really nice to hear that, right? Like, that's great.
That's probably why why you've become so successful.
I don't charge anybody cancellation fees. Things happened and I don't really get that many cancellations, really. I don't.
That's
really.
amazing. Yeah.
I'm just, and I talk to all my patients. I'm a mother first. I know that, things are challenging and there's so much going on. And I have in instances, for example, when a patient needed cranial osteopath visits, and they were like, there's no way I can do both. So I would say, okay, well, here are only 1 or 2 exercises for the next 4 weeks. Okay, already set up. This is what you're going to do because I've been seeing you for 8 or 9 weeks. Go see the osteopath and I'll see you back in a month or 6 weeks. Go get these 2 appointments, go get an ENT consult and an orthodontist consult. And then come back to me or go do, this type of other body work, whatever it is. I have done that before, or I have found that it works well with certain patients in certain cases where they don't feel so overwhelmed.
No, you're putting their treatment before, right? Which in the long run, if you're doing right by the patient, you usually get it back tenfold. So, doing the right thing. And even though sometimes it might not make sense on paper, it just makes sense as a human.
Exactly. Definitely. And
yes. I'm going to go ahead and just read a comment that Purnima Hernandez wrote. I was having this discussion with Barry R. today. So true and relevant. Myotherapy is so much of giving that personal rejuvenation is necessary. So glad that you cared for you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Yes. Anne made a comment and followed up with a question. There are still providers and families that are struggling to recognize the value of myofunctional therapy. Any suggestions as far as how we can approach the education with them?
You got to believe it. It's got to be passion. It's synchronized swimming. Okay. Every office I walk into, I think why I've had any success on that area is when I walk in and I'm able to spend 2 days with the staff, I'm going to get your staff to believe, right? I'm going to make your staff walking out like, my kids, I can't believe I didn't do it, right? Like, I'm going to make them or that's what I look at, right? So if I don't do, that's what you need to do. You can't, if you're going to do it and you need your whole team to be behind it, right? Like, you don't meet me. I think if Layla here, if I'm in a bar and I see a bum, I'm going to make sure that bartender knows you have a tongue tie. Let me help you. Like it's
high five.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know if Layla's around, any of them around, but they always say to me that if I just could have a practice at a bar, I'd be the most because there's not a restaurant around or someone that I haven't told. But actually my daughter begs me, I'm inviting a new friend over. Please do not look at her when she's sleeping or like look at her mouth and then just like her, just normal. I'll tell you, my daughter knows not to bring a really bad mouth breather over. I'm just joking.
Oh my goodness.
But that is, I think the biggest thing is, right, if you're going to bring this in and you're going to really implement it, you have to make sure your staff from the front to the back to your providers, this is not something I don't want to discourage, right? But I guess I do feel if you really want to do it and you want patients to buy, it has to become a way of treatment planning. So if you're a general dentist, you have to be talking about somebody's gingiva that because they're, the mouth breathing could be contributing to that. You have to be talking about this, decay or sealant staying on because of the oral health. You have to look at the whole child, the whole health, right? And when you start treatment planning like that, and you're looking at your entire patient and everything you do in your practice is about that whole patient, it will follow. The education becomes second nature. It becomes the script. It becomes who we are. We're not just dentists that do myo or have, we also, our services are frenuloplasties, our service are this. We service the entire mouth and we do whatever we can to support oral health. And therefore we make sure it functions, that your behaviors are being recognized and the same thing, even if they don't want to hear it. And I bring it back to hygiene on this. How many of our patients never flossed? And but we would never stop telling them, floss, right? Floss like they do, right? All of that. And you keep bringing it. Eventually, it will become standard. If you go back to 2009 to today, I can't believe how much myofunctional is out there, how many therapists. When I came home and told my family, told my husband, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to go work with these appliances and work on people's tongues. My husband was like, that was a test of our marriage. And the question was genuinely like, you're going to do what? Like, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he's like, so people are going to pay you to click their tongue. And, in Jersey, please, come on, these are hard-minded, but it's going to be uncomfortable. It's okay. Keep doing it. Keep hashing it away. I mean, it takes 30 years for things to completely change. We're halfway there.
Melissa, you were talking a little bit about your Airway team, your dental office. How do you build staff understanding in the office and Airway focused teams in the dental office? Does that make sense?
I think it kind of goes back to a little bit of what I said. It really is. All right, let's go a little bit deeper. I think a bigger thing is communication. Unfortunately, a lot of dental offices do not have great communication. I don't mean that to be rude or to anything. I think it's a big issue across the board in multiple industries. There has to be a captain, there has to be a leader. So depending on, I think the most successful offices we've seen that have implemented really well also really implement other things really well. And they communicate really well. And the doctor or whoever the captain of that ship is, or the director, could come in and say, we're going to implement aliens, and they would do it really well because they have a structure in place, that there's a vision, there's a model, there's a plan, and you follow somebody that you believe, right? And that's what happens. And that is not easy, right? I mean, there's not a bunch, there's only a couple multi-billion apples, right? But like, let's use the example of Apple versus Mac, or Apple versus a Windows-based computer, Macintosh. Sorry, was my train of thought. Thank you. Right. Apple, by far, everybody would say that's the superior product, right? But actually, the other one's probably a much better product. But the problem is Apple has built a vision, a brand. You use an Apple computer, please, you open up that computer, that Apple, that stands for something. That shows what kind of person you are, right? That's the why. You want to be somebody who has an Apple, right? So you don't care if Apple does TV or if Apple does music or if they do computers. You'll do whatever they want you to do because you trust the brand, right? That is difference, right? It doesn't matter if you're the best doctor doing the best thing, but if you don't have that buy-in, that feel, and that's something you have to try to work for. And I think that's what really separates the people and separates the docs that can really, really make that implementation in the world.
Wow. I just wanted to mention that Suzanne Robertson said that she's been at a bar with you.
Oh, yes, she has. She knows. I'm afraid most of these people have been at a bar with me.
Renata, I think our turn is coming up. Yeah.
I promise you'll all walk away with a new patient. There'll be a return on your investment.
So funny. I was going to say, I think that the best practice that I have seen that closeness with, and that where everybody supports each other, that he has a fantastic team because he is exceptional, is Dr. Depeche.
Okay, so actually, Depeche and I are very good friends. I've been lucky enough. I've been out by him, and actually Tara Urson became very good friends with him during their time when they took their course. And Tara and I had went out there, and we got to spend time. And Depeche and I have been together numerous times. Depeche is absolutely that guy, right? Like he's in it for a bigger picture, a vision, his practice. His staff will follow him into a bar, into anywhere, right? Because they know at the end of the day, why are we walking through the kitchen? I don't know, just follow him, right? Because there is a bit of him that is a really good business person, right? And I don't want to take that away, but I tell a lot of people from a consulting point, I do think in dental, we really suffer from something that people don't talk about, is that, in medical, anyone can own a hospital or a medical office, and then they can hire really great professionals to do the treatment and take care of the patients. But then a really great business person can run the business model. In the US, that's not possible for dentists. You have to be a DDS or a DMD to own a dental office. So you really put them in a position where they have to be providers, and they had to go to medical school to be really great, to go to do that. But no one really, I mean, I know now they have some of it, but just because you can do that doesn't mean you can run an amazing business. There's some people can do both. I think that's a real big obstacle and hurdle that we struggle with in dental. And I genuinely have empathy for a lot of dentists that are just so good at their craft, but maybe that's just not their passion, is to run an office. And then unfortunately, these dental organizational groups do not do, that's sad what they do to some of these dentists. You know what I mean? That's not an ideal business model either. So, I think we have some areas that we could really work in just to, strengthen that industry in a whole.
Definitely did it. Oh, I thought I had lost voice. Dr. Depeche is trying to to turn on his video.
Oh, I don't want to see his face. No, I'm just
I just sent you an email, Dr. Depeche, with the link.
He just wants to talk to me. He just can't let me have the spotlight. He's always got to take. No, I'm just joking.
Let's see, what protocols have been the most difficult to implement? We talked a little bit about protocols. How do you advise them to help with patient education, understanding, and acceptance? We talked about that often.
But I know we talked about it, but I think one of the best ways is to really start simple, right? And get the basic foundation down. Hey, buddy.
Here he is.
Yeah.
Hi. The man with, have you met the little man that's taking over the world? His son is right behind him. Do not be.
Hey, did you see that picture?
Yes, with him doing the teeth. Yeah, his son.
He's changing the wires out.
Yeah, I know, taking the wires, doing your daughter's braces. Most dentists have to worry about like who's going to take over their legacy. This kid's probably already doing work in the back of the office.
Wow. I work for a dentist. Oh, Dr. Depeche, Dr. Moeller.
Chris,
daughters were doing the CEREC crowns when they were like 8 years old. They did all the crowns for the office.
Yeah, you got it. Listen, nowadays you got to keep it in the family. You got to grow. So Dr. Depeche, we were just saying how, and I think you can relate. I think we've even talked about it. It's just, implementation of this stuff is hard for doctors. And if
it's hard, it's getting harder.
We just talked about that.
Because of all the stuff that's going on with
COVID has not helped us. There's been areas that we've grown in some ways, but from an actual productive industry in the office, from actually delivery standard procedure, we've really struggling there. We're struggling with staffing. We're struggling keeping, and I don't mean to please when I say about the finances. I'm just saying we're seeing inflation go up on a lot of things, and maybe inflation is a bad word. Things are raising. It's how do you keep up with that? And are the consumers prepared to keep up with that? And will they opt out and maybe pick and choose treatments and not, always be able to get exactly what they need? And sometimes shortcuts can lead to more of a disaster. And I think that's something you got to just be careful of and be aware, but having the conversation and talking about it is important. But Depeche, Dr. Depeche, right? You think about it, you have a staff that I just said would follow you into the back of a bar and not even ask why.
Yeah, no.
But that's, you're blessed with that. And I'm sure it's because you created that environment.
Yes, definitely. It's a reflection of who you are. If I was closer, I'd love to.
Yes.
No, we're entering a very, very, very difficult time now with the corporatization of dentistry, right? So now think about it. If 95% of dentistry becomes corporate, right? What do you think is going to happen to oral myofunctional therapy?
It's going corporate.
Like, look at just, think about that stuff, right? And then also with the new people coming in, the work ethic, the grind, they're not as, just in my opinion, hard working as like the older crowd, older generation, right?
They're not going to have mental breakdowns and have to take year high because they have work-life balance. No, I was, I actually started off by saying to them I had to take a year off because mentally I genuinely really struggled. And I'm trying, I think being in different offices throughout the country, in different places, all over the place, I see things from very different perspectives. I'm very lucky that way, that from Miami to Denver to Portland, you know, to Texas, to Louisiana, all of these different areas, it does not look the same everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, right? And the
Right.
problem is, if we want to standardize things and keep everything moving forward, we have to be aware of everything around us, not just have, you know, goggles looking one way, and you have to have some flexibility, right? Again, empathy and understanding and putting yourself in somebody else's place and perspective and position will only make you better and stronger in your own stance and being able to feel confident in how you're executing it. I think that's one of the things. I think sometimes we don't get enough. I think people, I guess I don't want to say this thing, but sometimes it's hard to get on something like this and say things that none of you agree with, right? And that the whole movement is going to say, oh my God, you said that? You can't say that. This person's not going to like you. This one might not talk to you. You might be canceled. Like I said earlier, I'm already canceled. So what does it matter? So that's the truth. You have to be able to say those things and not be afraid, because maybe 2 people tonight or something will walk away and go, oh, wow, okay, somebody else is thinking it, right? Oh, then maybe I'll have a conversation. I'll call Dr. DePash, or, you know, I'll call Angie, I'll call somebody, and I'll have a conversation that will help me, and then we can navigate our way out of it as a team instead of just one person.
This makes me so happy to be able to sit down in a place and have these types of conversation that need to be said. So thanks for being so open.
No, and you're right. These conversations need to be had. The bigger reason why is, I feel like now we're in a time period where everybody just hates one another. Right? Like nobody, I feel like nobody can really like get along and just talk it out.
Listen, not enough people are drinking in bars, getting myofunctional evaluations by me, you know?
Right.
We need the leader. We need the leader for the Pied Piper for all of us to follow.
Listen, Depeche is what happens when I stop drinking so much and I don't go to bars. We start out, I'm just, you know, and it's actually, he's very right. Like we kind of stopped having fun, you know, like we stopped. I'm not saying as a whole, we stay very close knit now because we're concerned about our environment. Who do we trust? Who do we feel
and have turned into keyboard warriors.
Yes, it's awful. It is awful. And I used to be one of those people that I would see something be posted and I had to say something. Oh my gosh. And this last year, 2 years, really, I've been working a lot on my Brazilian mentor. He says, go take care of your life. So every single time now I see something like that, I'm like, go take care of my life. Like it does not pertain to me. Just move on. It doesn't matter if I'm going to put my opinion out there. I'm not going to change anybody, you know? So yeah.
I appreciate you saying that. And I like, again, being open and honest about it, but you know, actually Dana, I don't know if she's still on here, Moon. When I first met her or first kind of, she found me or vice versa, maybe I could be off Dana if I'm on, but it was in a group and somebody said something. I don't know if it was towards her or whatever, but it was a new therapist asking a question. And I'm telling you, these therapists pounced on her. And I said to myself, like, then nobody's going to ask questions. Like, then what's going to happen is they're going to just do what they want to do because they're scared and they're never doing. And I think I got on and I was like, hey, don't worry about it. We all had to start somewhere. Like, let's just ask. I mean, I think that is one thing about me. I have plenty of cases. I've seen tons of that. I mean, I could do all that. And I've never been afraid to get up in front of a room, tell you whatever you want to know, say it, whether I say it correctly, incorrectly. I can't even spell that well. So I can't even respond that because you know right away, well, you know who it was, but you know what I mean? Like, but I do think I'm grateful for my ability to be authentic, and hopefully that has longevity and will keep me, you know, allowed to stay around a little bit.
Definitely. A lot of people were talking about this with the girls the other day, that everybody in this field, like, or any field really, they learn something like, that's mine. Oh my gosh, no, I spend so much time learning this and you know, all these years and all this money, I'm not going to share this with anybody, you know, or we're not asking anybody to give anything away for free. But whenever you just have compassion and you welcome those people who are just starting by just, you know, being nice.
Fortunately and unfortunately, there are so many people with poor myofunctional disorders. There is plenty of work for all of us.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, it's sad that people have so many, but unfortunately, none of us created I mean, there's some of our pioneers, Joy Muller, Sonda, all these ladies, Bankard, I know, like, but none of us invented clicking tongues. Like, you know, like nobody owns that, right? Nobody owns the ability to, like, you know, I mean, come on, Frozen. I mean, that girl just was doing TikTok. She didn't ask any myofunctional therapist. So, I mean, and I use that Frozen video all the time. These are great tools to help us overcome things. And I guess in a lot of ways, I think you saw I changed it. I even don't use therapists so much. I really do feel like I'm a health coach, like in a way, and I know there's health coaching thing, but I'm trying to coach people through and navigate through these disorders, these functions. And I think Sarah Hornsby said it really well. Sometimes being like a director of your treatment plan, right? Like, okay, just like you said, you need to go see your osteopath. You need to go see Dr. Depeche for this. I mean, like when I say to you, I mean, that's how Zaghi and I met. I was like, I don't have the answer. I'll pay for this guy to tell you. And then that's how I was just on there listening to him, right? You get that information, but that took a lot. I mean, I had to shell out money, and I had to also put myself in an uncomfortable position to say, this is what we've done. This is who I've sent him to. And he was, you know, amazing. I mean, I think that was great. He was also, you know, 2 years into it. So we were the constant growth and development. I mean, that's why he's had the success he's had. I know one of the questions is what I've learned from TBI. I think Dr. Depeche said the same thing. The fact is that every lecture he'll get up and he'll tell you what didn't work last year that now we fixed this year. He'll show you the cases that didn't go great. I mean, there's cases that him and I, that we had together that I remember something happened. They came back to Vegas. I call him and he's like, okay, ready? Like, I mean, he had his wife come meet me one night when she was still like, I mean, there was the amount of collaboration and team because we had open lines of communication and we didn't feel judged is really what separates Dr. Zaghi and really brought him to, you know, to the status of where he's at now and what he deserves. And, you know, that's why I think everyone's so intrigued and so grateful and wants to hear everything he has to say, but it's because he's not afraid to talk about what didn't work and what needs to change and how we have to keep moving. And I think therapy needs to take that same lead. You know what I mean? I think we need to say, okay, hey, that you doing sessions, that's awesome. That works for you. You're kicking butt. Now I can turn around and say to a dental office, I know, hey, you want to talk about sessions? Give Renato a call. Like, you know, there's no shame in that.
Exactly. Definitely. You want to fill in, Dr. Depeche?
No, she's on point.
Definitely is. So I really want to have an Airway Circle conference. Only a few people know this, but now a lot more now. We're going to try April 2023. Hopefully everything works out here in Savannah, where I'm from. But Savannah is very well known for bar hopping. So maybe we can do a special one night, bar hopping with Melissa.
I have gotten river faced on or blank face on. I've been down there for St. Patrick's Day a couple of times.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
I had a very good friend that lived on Tybee Island, so I've been down many times. So, and actually, I didn't realize you were in Savannah, but I think I said to Depeche, I'm not going to lie to you. I moved to New Orleans. I moved to Louisiana recently, and I moved down here genuinely because the South is where it's at next. It is the next area where you're going to see Myo and Airway really move. It takes a little while for things to come down here, but you're seeing a shift. You're going to see a lot, you have Baxter in Alabama, but you're seeing a lot more come out of here. And the universities down here, we get dental schools behind it. You'll see a really good movement. I think this is an area just across this whole southern east region down here, southeast, you'll really see a good movement. So, I mean, it's interesting just to even look at the country shifting, right? When I was in New Jersey 12 years ago, I had a mentor say to me, go out West. No one's going to buy that stuff out here. Like, or if they did, like, not on the level I wanted to do it. And the West Coast blew up, right? It was great. I mean, my time in Vegas, my time with Dr. Urson, all of them, I've been lucky enough to be part of them growing their offices and see them just do amazing success and just really elevate themselves. And I really now feel like I know where my passion is, and that is to growth and development of the field and with these dental offices as a whole.
That is amazing. How can they get in touch with you?
So you can go to my website. It's melissamugno.com. And on Instagram, it's Melissa the Mouth.
I love it.
I think you pronounced your name a little differently.
Oh, I said Mugno. It's Mugno or Mugno. It just really depends what bar we're at, what we've been drinking. I seriously, my husband goes by Mugno. His mother goes by Mugno. It's not me making it. It's that crazy.
All righty,
It's
guys.
Italian. It's Italian,
I
right?
know it's the Italian. Okay, I know. We'll have the argument with my mother-in-law and my husband. I know.
All righty, guys. Well, this has been such a wonderful and needed talk. Melissa, thank you so much. I'm so glad that I reached out to you. And here you are on Airway Circle as your first. Hello, I'm back. And I'm
Actually, and one other last thing, I think in a couple months, keep your eye out. Sarah Hornsby and I are going to be launching we're going to be doing a course. Finally, I'm going to do something with some appliances and implementation for all myofunctional therapists. I've been trying to do it. Everyone's asked me for years, but my head was a little bit in a bar, so I couldn't really think about it. No, but now I think I'm ready to finally put some cases together and start talking about what it looks like to really work with the appliances.
Excellent. We're going to watch for that.
That's awesome.
That's going to be wonderful. We're looking forward to that.
Thank you so much. This was a really great time.
Thank you so much, guys. Next week, we have Circle Time on Tuesday. Circle Time is our myofunctional therapy study club that we go only by experience. We share cases and we just talk about how to do therapy and what tools we used and research reviews. So it's really fun, small group. And on Thursday, do we know who we have, Angie?
Sharon Thomas.
Oh, amazing.
Next week. So super excited about that. She's amazing. And Wednesday, 5:55 p.m. on Clubhouse is Dr. Martha Cortez. And our podcast is launching March 1st. Stay tuned while we release the other hosts. There's right now, there's 3 different hosts for our podcast. So super fun. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night. And thank you.
It was great to see you.
Yes, likewise.
Yes. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for
Bye-bye.
being here.